بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-anbiya wal mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, it gives me great pleasure to be here amongst you and to talk to you about the glory of our Creator. This is the month of Ramadan, the month in which the book of Allah was revealed, and therefore it's only appropriate that we speak about the greatness and glory and majesty of our Creator. The very first word, 1432 years ago, a window opened in the heavens and God spoke to man. This is not the first time that had happened, but it was going to be the last time that it was to happen. And the first word that was revealed was the word that's on the screen there, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, read in the name of your Rabb, in the name of your Lord, who created all that exists. So what did He create? Let me share with you some of my favorites. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the blue whale, the largest living creature ever to exist. And that scale diagram there shows you the comparison of a blue whale compared to a tyrannosaur, and compared to a battle tank, and compared to a bus, and so on and so forth, and of course compared to people. 32.9 or 33 meters long, 108 feet long, weighing 190 tons in weight. That's the picture of a blue whale breaching, which is come completely out of the water, clear. Think about that, something which weighs 190 tons going through water. What must be the power and force with which it swims to be able to become airborne? Ajib, huh? That is the scale model of a heart of a blue whale. It's roughly the size of a car. And that's a man standing next to it, so you can see how big it is. The call of a blue whale is 188 decibels. To give you a comparison, a jet blast is 140 decibels. They actually recorded the call of a blue whale which was calling off the coast of California. They recorded that call off the coast of Japan, across the Pacific. Which means, of course, that if you were a blue whale, then you wouldn't need a phone to talk to your children in India or something. You could just call from here. The tongue of a blue whale is the same weight as an Asian elephant, 4 tons. The mouth of a blue whale can hold a volume of 90 metric tons. And I put up a picture of a Caterpillar truck there to give you an idea. That truck holds about 10 tons. So about 9 truckloads worth of that in the mouth of a blue whale. But it cannot swallow anything bigger than a beach ball. It is what is known as a baleen whale. It has a mesh in its throat through which it draws water, and I'll tell you what it feeds on. While I'm giving you this entire presentation, I want you to ask yourself just one question, and that question is why. Every time I tell you something, just ask yourself why. Because if you were creating, or I was creating something like the blue whale, tell me, what would you define for its food? Maybe buses or tanks or, The blow of a blue whale, the way it breathes is it takes in water and it blows it out through the top of a hole on top of his head. And that picture in the center is an actual photograph of a blow of a blue whale. It's 50 feet high, straight up in the air. A blue whale calf weighs 6,000 pounds, the size of a hippopotamus, 6 tons. and you need to have a whole dairy farm to feed it if you were feeding it, because it needs 400 liters of milk a day. What do blue whales eat? Krill. Blue whales eat krill. Krill, the absolute Arnold Schwarzenegger of krill, weighs 1 gram. To give you an idea of how big a krill is, that's how big a krill is. Blue whales are shafi, they eat prawns. Ajib, huh? Ask yourself why. Why create something that size and then decree for it food which is that big? Blue whales actually also eat phytoplankton and zooplankton, so it's even smaller than that. And they eat krill alone. A blue whale needs 40 tons of it per day. A krill actually, that's another beautiful thing about this krill. It's an amazing creature. It's the Antarctic krill has a lifespan of 10 years. Can you imagine something that size actually lives for 10 years? Unless it comes into contact with the blue whale, of course. Let's go further and let me tell you about a bird. A bird that is called a bar-tailed godwit. And all these birds, of course, are named by Englishmen. That's why they give them names like that. Bar-tailed godwit. The bar-tailed godwit it is known to be the bird with the longest migration, non-stop flying migration route. It takes off in Alaska and it goes all the way down to New Zealand. And that's the picture of the globe. It takes off there and goes all the way down to New Zealand. A distance of 11,500 kilometers, it does in 9 days and nights. Now what does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means the bird takes off. The sun rises, the sun sets, the sun rises, the sun sets, the sun rises, the sun sets. The bird is flying. It's not an albatross coasting on 16-foot wingspan. It's a small bird that size. It's beating its wings day and night, continuously. Doesn't land, doesn't eat, doesn't drink, doesn't sleep. They have researched and they found that half the brain sleeps and the other half is awake, and then this half sleeps and that half is awake, and the bird is flying. There is a rainstorm and the bird is flying. There is a snowstorm and the bird is flying. There are cities underneath, the bird is flying. There are oceans underneath, the bird is flying. There are deserts underneath, the bird is flying. All the way from Alaska to New Zealand in 9 days and 9 nights non-stop. And there are no refueling tankers flying overhead and fueling it while it is going. What's the question to ask? Why? Another bird, the one which flies at the highest altitude, the bar-headed goose. Again takes off in Alaska, goes straight up into the air, hits the jet stream current at 33,000 feet and goes 1,000 miles in a day. It's flying at that elevation, temperature of minus 59 degrees Celsius. Take the same bar-headed goose and put it in your freezer. At minus 4 it freezes. At minus 59 it's flying. The oxygen at that elevation is almost non-existent. But you know what they discovered? They discovered that bar-headed geese actually breathe better in rarefied atmospheres. That in plain English means they breathe when there is no air. So next time you are going to some place, to your country, back to your country, and you look out of the window and you see some geese, you're not drunk, they're there. But if you do see some geese, when you are in your plane, out a window, repeat after me, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, because you know you don't have too long to live. If you see geese at that level next to your plane, you are in serious trouble. What's the question to ask? Why? Third one. If you were creating birds, where would you put their food? In the air or in the water? If you were creating fish, where would you put their food? In the air or in the water? Archer fish eat insects. They shoot insects down from the trees. Low hanging branches, they shoot insects down from the trees. And those of you like me who did physics in your primary school or secondary school, you know all about parallax error. So if you are a fish underwater, you are actually not seeing that insect where it is because of parallax error. So when you are shooting water up into that insect, you are correcting for parallax error and you are hitting that insect, because otherwise you don't eat. Interesting, eh? Food for the birds in the water, food for the fish in the air. What's the question to ask? Hello? Hungry people are supposed to be awake, man. We come to another bird. In a previous incarnation, I used to live in the Amazonian rainforest. I lived 5 years in Guyana. And the first time I saw one of these, I thought it was a moth. Little thing that big. The Arnold Schwarzenegger of that weighs 4 grams. The ruby-throated hummingbird. It's the only bird which flies backwards, up, down, sideways, anyway. Because it lives on nectar. And it needs to do all those maneuvers to get its beak into the throat of the flower to drink nectar. It beats its wings at 1,000 RPM. 1,000 RPM. Right? Now, that's not the bottom line. The bottom line is that this bird migrates 2,000 kilometers from Chile, South America, Guyana, Trinidad, Tobago, all those areas, all the way up to the bank of the Mississippi River. And part of that migration route is straight across the Gulf of Mexico, a distance of 600 miles. This little bird, which weighs 4 grams, flies non-stop 600 miles across the open ocean. What does that mean? Plain English? It means the sun rises, the bird takes off. The sun is at midday, the bird is flying. Little thing that big. The sun is setting, the bird is flying. It's now pitch dark night, no moon, no stars, the bird is flying. The sun rises again, the bird continues to fly. And 2 hours into the new day, it takes 26 hours. 2 hours into the new day, the ruby-throated hummingbird lands in the United States of America without a visa. That's the bird. Ajib, huh? Why? What's the question to ask? Why? This God of ours, the creator of the heavens and earth, cannot feed that little bird where it lives? What kind of creator is that? He cannot feed the bird where it lives in the Amazonian rainforest, the most fertile place in the world. It has to send this bird all the way to the bank of the Mississippi to eat. Why is it migrating? So that you and I can learn the tafsir of the Quran. He sends the bird all the way to the bank of the Mississippi so that you understand his kalam. When he said, أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا إِلَى الطَّيْرِ فَوْقَهُمْ صَافَّاتٍ وَيَقْبِضْنَ مَا يُمْسِكُهُنَّ إِلَّا الرَّحْمَنُ إِنَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ بَصِيرٌ. Think about that bird, that big, pitch dark night. Who gives it direction? How does it go? I know all the scientific answers, believe me, I'm not talking. If disturbance doesn't mean I have no brain, it means I have so much brain, it has to be tied down. I know all the scientific answers. All the scientific answers relate to the how. They do not relate to the why. They'll tell you magnetic poles, direction, so on, all of which I agree with completely. It still doesn't answer for me the question why. For the question why, you've got to go to the book of your Rabb. Some more birds. Emperor penguins live in the Antarctic. Come breeding time, if you are a penguin and you live on fish, where should you be? Next to the sea or far away from the sea? What do you think? Hello? Hungry people, speak. Next to the sea. Well, you know what these penguins do? They go inland. 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, 120 kilometers. They go inland, and penguins don't fly, they walk. And then what happens? The females, they lay a single egg each, and the males take the egg on their 2 feet, and they hold the egg up on their 2 feet, and a flap of their skin folds over the egg to incubate the egg. So now you've got the male penguin there standing with the egg on its feet and the flap over the eggs. The females leave and they go away fishing. They call it a man's world. But I always say, what is a man's best friend? A dog. Yes? What's a woman's best friend? A diamond. Whose world is it, yeah? The penguin stands there with the egg on its feet, covered with skin. The egg takes about 70 days to hatch. For 70 days, the male penguins stand with the egg on their feet, no food, no water. 70 days, 2.5 months. What is the condition in the Antarctic? 200 kilometers an hour winds, blizzards, minus 50 degrees Celsius temperatures. If that egg falls down for 1 second, it's gone. But that's not the bottom line. You know what the bottom line is? The penguins stand in huge huddles like this, big colonies. Now, if you are a penguin in that colony, which is the nicest place to be, the center or the outside? The center, right? But you know what penguins do? Penguins take turns. The ones in the center walk backwards and come out, and the ones on the outside go in. And when they are warmed up, the ones on the inside walk backwards and come out, and the ones on the outside go in. And not one of them ever came to one of my leadership training classes either. You know, it's strange. Can you imagine this thing? Just think about this. And they're walking with an egg on their feet, voluntarily giving up a comfortable place so that others will survive. And we are the civilized ones, yeah? When I used to live in Guyana, there was one of the calypso songs, Man and a Bunch of Animals Living in the Zoo. And there was this whole story of what the animals think about people. Amazing song it was. They used to play it on the steel drums. Let me tell you about something else. Talking trees and the bush telegraph. You know, these are photographs I took in South Africa. They found that elephants can communicate not across miles, but across hundreds of miles, where they're obviously not in any contact with each other, neither auditory contact nor visual contact. But herds of elephant have been mapped as if they are working in complete synchronicity in the plains of Tanzania, in the plains of Kenya, and all the East African and South African lands. How do they communicate? Second one, acacia trees. When antelope go to graze on them, the acacia tree secretes a very bitter enzyme so that the antelope cannot eat the leaves. Now that is good enough in itself. The tree protects itself. But you know what? If the antelopes come to trees on one side of the savanna, they have mapped trees which are many miles away doing exactly the same secretion of bitter enzyme at the same time as the first tree which is being attacked. The trees have communicated across miles of open savanna. How? Let's go to the sea. Those are oceanic maps of the Mariana Trench off the coast of Japan, the Mariana Islands, the deepest ditch in the Pacific. The Mariana Trench is 11 kilometers deep. We know what that means? It means that if you take Mount Everest and drop it into the Mariana Trench, you will have 2 kilometers of water on top of Mount Everest. That's how deep it is. What is the pressure of water down there? It is 8 tons per square inch. The pressure of 48 747 aircraft per square inch. If you take anything less than a titanium steel submarine, actually Virgin Atlantic has made a small vessel, one-man vessel, which is due to go down there. We should see what happens. But if you take a regular vessel down there, it will get smashed like a can of Coke under a truck with the pressure. Total darkness, temperature of just above freezing, which is because of the anomalous expansion of water and so on and so on and so on. That shows you that I also studied physics in school, and we welcome His Excellency, my ambassador, Mr. Satish Mehta. What lives down there? What do you think will live down there where there is complete darkness and where there is pressure of 8 tons per square inch? which even a steel vessel cannot sustain. What do you think lives down there? The fang tooth, the angler fish, and the sucker octopus. And that name has nothing to do with his attitude, just his appendage. Question: who feeds them? Answer: وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا وَيَعْلَمُ مُسْتَقَرَّهَا وَمُسْتَوْدَعَهَا كُلٌّ فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ. Once again, there is the how and there is the why. Let's go into up into the atmosphere. That picture on the top, the blue planet, is our planet, of course, the Earth. And then the other one is the Sun. First, some statistics. The Sun is 109 times the diameter of the Earth and 330 times its mass, its weight. And it's the largest mass. It accounts for about 99% of the mass of the entire solar system, is the Sun alone. And then we have the Moon, and that's a lovely picture of the phases of the Moon. And that's the picture of the surface of the Moon. I always wondered why poets call their beloved, your face is like the moon. Because they didn't see that picture, no? Wouldn't be very flattering to say your face is like the moon. Now, since you are very impressed with the size of the Sun and the size of the Moon and so on and so forth, let me show you something else. Here are some other planets. You have the planet with the name of the bee, which I can't pronounce, which is 700x, 700 times the size of the Sun, and you have Antares, which is 1,000 times the size of the Sun, and so on and so on. And that little arrow there, if you can see the arrow with the red circle, that is our Sun, 330,000 times the size of the Earth, is our Sun there in this picture, invisible because it is 1 pixel. And the Earth is 330,000 times smaller than that. Try and imagine that, this Earth of ours. Why am I showing all these pictures? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ وَالشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرِ لَا تَسْجُدُوا لِلشَّمْسِ وَلَا لِلْقَمَرِ وَاسْجُدُوا لِلَّهِ الَّذِي خَلَقَهُنَّ إِن كُنتُمْ إِيَّاهُ تَعْبُدُونَ. That's why we Muslims, we do not create anything, we do not worship anything in creation. We worship the Creator. Let's go to the Milky Way galaxy, which is where our entire solar system, including Antares and the rest of them, they are located in the Milky Way galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy takes roughly 300,000 years to go across if you could travel at the speed of light. That's how big it is. But the Milky Way galaxy is one of billions, not millions, billions of galaxies in the observable universe. What are we saying here? We are saying first that we acknowledge the fact that we cannot observe all the universe. We don't know that. We don't have enough technology to do that yet. But what we can observe, we know that the Milky Way galaxy is not only the only one in it, it's not only one of few, it's one of billions. And in that one of billions of galaxies is Antares, which is 1,000 times the size of our Sun, which is 330,000 times the size of our Earth. And on this Earth we have one country, and in that one country we have one city, and in that one city I have one house, over which when I die my children will fight, so that all the attorneys can live very nice lives. Thank God for attorneys. My brothers and elders, what did I learn from all of this? Two truths. Number one truth: even if I own the whole world, not just one country or one house or one city, even if I own the entire world and all that it contains, that is less than 1 grain of sand on a beach in the greater scheme of things. And the second truth is that even if I own the whole world and all that it contains, one day I have to leave. It's not mine forever. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drew our attention to it, and He defined intelligence as the one who can recognize these signs. And He said, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. That's the translation for you. I'm not going to do the translation. It's there. And that is where the Quran and science meet, where the challenge of the Quran to the people of the world, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنُ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقِّ. Allah says, we will show them our signs until it becomes clear to them that this book is the truth. Whether you accept it or not is not material. The fact that it is the truth. Determinable, measurable, provable. So who is Allah? I began my presentation by saying, let me introduce you to our Creator, your Creator, my Creator. So who is Allah? He's the one who created all of this. Then He introduced Himself. And I will tell you the words that He introduced Himself in. He said, هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر. سبحان الله عما يشركون. هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. Sadaqallahu Azim. Thank you very much for listening. Being the month of Ramadan, this is getting time for us for iftar, and this is the time for the acceptance of dua, for acceptance of prayers. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant all that you desire in your lives. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not put any conditions on who should ask, and He did not put any conditions on what you should ask. So anybody can ask, and you can ask whatever you like. So ask for whatever you like. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about dua, the ayah of the Quran which my brother recited before I began my presentation, which comes in the middle of the ayat for Ramadan, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِ عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. Which means, when my slave asks about me, I am close to him. When a person asks about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah says, I am close to him. Ujibu da'wat ad-da'i iza da'an. He said, when he asks me for something, I listen to him and I give it to him. When he asks me for something, I listen to him and I give it to him. فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. So tell him to obey me and tell him to have faith in me. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ, so that he may be guided. They asked the messenger Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they asked Muhammad, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, They said to him, we ask Allah, we make dua. But not everything is accepted. For example, you ask for something, you find it doesn't happen. So they said, we ask Allah, but Allah said He accepts, but we find I maybe ask for a Rolls Royce, or maybe gold-plated Rolls Royce with diamond button or something. Allah did not put any limits. You can actually ask for a gold-plated Rolls Royce. Nothing wrong with that. So they said, well, we ask for dua and we find that what we ask for doesn't come. So Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam explained that so beautifully. Let me share that explanation with you. He said that there are three kinds of dua, three kinds of prayer, three kinds of supplication that we ask Allah. He said the first one is a dua that you ask and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants it. You say, oh Allah, give me a child, Allah gives you a child. Say, oh Allah, give me a promotion, He gives you a promotion. Oh Allah, make my boss disappear, He makes him disappear. Don't make those duas, but So you ask for a dua and the dua actually happens. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said there is another kind of dua which you ask and you find that it does not happen in this life. But unknown to you, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the ghaib, He knows the past and the future. For Him there is no past and there is no future. Past and the future is a function of day and night, which is how this world is created. If you remove the sun and the moon, there is no past and future. The sun is for the day and the moon is for the month. If you take these two away, there is no past, there is no future. So for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of the sun and the moon and the heavens and the earth and everything else we know and we don't know. For Him there is no past and future. So He knows what's in the past and He knows what's in the future. So Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, you ask a dua and Allah does not give it in this life and you feel to yourself, oh, I asked for this, nothing happened. But at that time there was to be a calamity that was to come in your life, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes that calamity instead of giving you this dua. And He said there is a third kind of dua. One where you ask and you get, another one where you ask and a calamity is removed but you don't get what you ask for. And the third one, and He said the third one is a dua which you ask and you do not get. And at that time there is also no calamity that is to befall you. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps these duas with Him. And He says on the day of judgment when we are produced before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call you by name. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, Ya Sayyid al-Malik, you asked me for this and I gave it to you. And you asked me for this and at that time this calamity was to befall you and Allah will show you that calamity on that day because we don't know what that calamity was today. So you asked me for this, but there was a calamity which was to befall you and I removed this calamity for you. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, He will say, but you asked me also for this and I didn't give it to you. And also there was no calamity at that time to be removed. Now that dua is with me now. Ask now and I will give you whatever you want. Ajib, the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Having given this explanation, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said something else. He said that if you knew the value of this last dua on the day of judgment when nothing can help any of us except the mercy of our Rabb, on that day, what is the value of being called by your Rabb to say, ask now what you want and I will give you. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that if you understand the value of dua, of this kind of dua on that day, you will wish that you make dua every single moment of your life, all your life, and none of those duas are accepted in this life. So that all those duas are banked with your Rabb on the day of judgment for you to ask. And then when you ask, He says, ask what you want, and I hope somebody will say, Ya Rabb, that Sheikh Yawar, please send him into Jannah because he can't go on his own. Please forgive him, let him go, good guy. My brothers and elders, this is a beautiful month to speak about beautiful things. And the most beautiful of things is the glory of your and my Rabb. The glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whose signs we see in this world. If you're walking down the road, in a previous incarnation I used to be very fond of hunting. And I did not hunt like our hunters do nowadays, all the illegal hunting that happens in India, which is haram incidentally, because it is illegal in Islam to disobey the law of a land that is for the good of all people. Some of the scholars have said that it is haram to the extent that if a Muslim disobeys that land, the Muslim has left Islam, he has become a kafir. If there is a law which is for the benefit of everybody, for example, environmental protection, for example, paying your taxes incidentally is for the benefit of all people. And if a Muslim denies that and he doesn't pay those taxes and he fudges those taxes, then he is committing haram in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even if the IRS doesn't get him, Allah will get him. That's saying something, because the IRS gets people. I mean, no one else gets them, the IRS gets them. So I used to hunt in the days when it was permitted, and this is because I was born many years ago. And I used to hunt on foot. So I learned tracking. And I learned to tell from the tracks of an animal whether that animal was walking or running, whether that was a male or a female, whether it had eaten or not eaten, whether it was a pregnant female or not a pregnant female, what kind of animal it was, how long it was since it passed from there by looking at the dung, know what it ate by looking at the dung, all of this, alhamdulillah. So when I see the dung of a camel, I know it's a camel and not a cow. When I see the dung of a sambar, I know it's a sambar and not a spotted deer, not a cheetah. When I see the dung of a horse, I know it's the dung of a horse. And when I see the dung of a horse, I know that a horse was here, it passed by. What should I do when I see the signs of my Rabb and your Rabb? What should I do when I see these beautiful faces here? Ajib, just look at yourselves. Why must Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create someone who is fair, and someone who is dark, and someone who is beautiful, and someone who is majestic, and someone who is glorious, and someone who's got silver hair, and someone who's got black hair, and so on and so on? Why? Why must Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create a bird which is like the bar-tailed godwit, and another one like the ruby-throated hummingbird, and another one like the albatross, and another one like the Eurasian swift, which remains airborne for 3.5 years continuously, never lands, eats in flight, drinks in flight, sleeps in flight, mates in flight, and lands only to build a nest, the Eurasian swift. Why? Why does Allah not just create a bird? B-I-R-D, one beak, two legs, two wings, one tail, khalas. Make an extrusion unit, have some angel sitting there, spinning the thing, and then bird, stop. Next shift, next angel, bird, stop. Why not? Why millions and millions and millions of species of insects? Why millions and millions and millions of species of fish? Why? So that you and I can do what I just described for you when I used to do tracking. Recognize the creator from the science. Recognize the creator from the science. I was speaking at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst once. And somebody actually asked me this question. They said, why did God create so many different things? Why not just create one man? Everybody's good. Just one man. Khalas. So I asked him, I said, let me ask you a question. I said, supposing I tell you there are two artists. There's one guy who painted one painting and then he takes 100 glossy color photocopies. Right? So how many paintings does he have now? 101. How does he have 101? He's got one painting. And I said, there's another artist who creates 101 individual paintings. Who would you say is a greater artist? This one or this one? The latter one, right? Because greater originality, more patterns, so on, so on, so on. Yes? So I said to the person who asked me this question, I said, look at this. So look at this. You know what this is? Thumbprint. I said to them that this thumbprint here did not exist until I was born. And the day I die, this will not come back on the face of this planet again. And I said, if you're not impressed with that, let me tell you something else. The tail, the stripe pattern on the bottom of a zebra is different for every single zebra. The young ones, they fix on the bottom pattern, tail pattern of their mother. And if you have seen the absolutely amazingly beautiful movies made by BBC called on Blue Planet and Planet Earth, you will see amazing photographs of the great migration of the Serengeti plains. Now, if you are a little zebra in that Serengeti plain, and if you lose your mother, you are a dead zebra. Because zebras do not feed the young of others. So he can't go and feed from anyone else. If he loses his mother, he's finished. And in that Serengeti plain, with millions of zebras galloping down the road, this little one keeps up to his mother, fixed because that pattern on the bottom is fixed in his brain. And I said, if you are not impressed with that, the African lions, each one has a distinctive individual whisker pattern around the mouth. Now, if you are a creator of African lions, for God's sake, I mean, you got that much of space. How many different places are you going to put whiskers in? I mean, every single one is got to be different, yes? And if you're not impressed with that, how many of you saw the structure of a snowflake? Google it. Go ask Chef Google. Chef Google is the repository of all information, you know. Go and do Google images and say snowflakes. Do you know that every single snowflake has a different structure? I'm trying to imagine. I think my sort of mind went into short circuit when I tried to imagine that. Try and imagine how many snowflakes fall on the earth at a given time. Every single one has a different structure. Why? Question is why? Big question is what? Why? Same reason. Recognize your Rabb from his signs. Because that is logic, that is sense, that is science. You recognize everything else in the world from their signs. What is the sign of electricity in this room? The fact that the lights are functioning and the fact that the air conditioning is not. I'm hot like hell. Are you also hot? No? You're feeling cool. You are cool, man. We recognize. Now, if somebody says, no, you know what? I got to put my finger in there to see if there is current. I say, no problem. Go do that while we make preparations for your final rites. You know, go stick your finger. You will find out. Sure enough, absolutely no doubt. You got a choice: recognize electricity by the signs, or go stick your finger in the plug. Two ways to recognize electricity. That is the point I'm saying as far as the creation is concerned, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this creation so that we recognize His signs and we glorify Him and we glorify in His presence. Jazakumullahu khairan. I think you are all hungry, and let me give you some time for your individual dua and to make your supplications and so forth. I don't want to be talking to you for too long. I think I've talked to you for enough. Yes? Yes. No, they also we listen only to the ambassador, not to them. Jazakallahu khairan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless all of you, to accept your fasting, and for those who are not fasting, to accept your not fasting. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you, to shower you with His mercy and His grace anyway, because all of us are His creatures. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fill your lives with His blessing, to take away all the pains and suffering that you have, if you have any, and if you don't have any, not to give you any. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fulfill all the desires that you have. People say fulfill all your jais desires, all your just and correct desires. And I don't want to know about the others. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you power and to give you authority to do good, because that is the only purpose for which we have been sent, to do good. We were not sent to do something which is harmful to anybody. Because as I told you, even if you own the whole earth and all that it contains, it is less than a grain of sand on a beach. Now what is that worth losing your honor for? Is that worth harming somebody for? Is that worth doing something which is unjustified or unjust or cruel or discompassionate? No, it's not. It's not. It's not. It's not worth it. Even if you got the whole thing. In any case, you won't get the whole thing. That's a given. But even if you did get the whole thing, it's less than a grain of sand on a beach. And even if you got that, you have to leave it one day. So who the hell wants it anyway? So the point is that let's live our lives in such a way that alhamdulillah, we think only of good things and we think of doing good to as many people as possible. So that when we die, then that loss is something that people will think well about. They won't say, thank God he's gone. That's very important. Because remember, people always say, you should be remembered. I always say, you will always be remembered. Believe me. The question is, remembered how? Don't confuse yourself. People say, you should become a role model. I say, you're always a role model. The question is, what kind of role model? We must be very clear in our minds. You're always a role model. The question is, what kind of role model? So that's why we must be very clear in the mind. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you very much for inviting me here to speak. And thank you very much for this honor, which is truly an honor. And I am very grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to all of you. And thank you very much for sitting silently and listening to all this and not throwing forks and spoons and eggs and tomatoes and so forth at me. I'm pretty good at ducking all that sort of stuff, but I'd rather not try. So, Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.